Hey, welcome back. This is Frank and Angie in their Retiree Lifestyle, dissecting through all of the good and bad of trying to keep your sanity in this crazy world we live in. We're still here. We've got some Whoppers for you. We're still at the beach. It's so windy today. I almost didn't come here to make a video. It's just so windy. I hope you can hear me. How do we stay grounded to what's true and what's good about being on this earth when it's like just this morning I was leafing through some information and it was just the propaganda. I mean, the news was, well, you know what I mean. It was just so thick. It's unbelievably, and I don't know who reads these magazines. It's like I read newsletters and magazines, so they must have some kind of viewership in order for them to exist. Maybe they're just financed by people with ill intentions. There's a lot of that too going on. Let's cut through some of that with some of these Whoppers. And so the propaganda is so thick you can cut it with a knife. When we try to cut through some of this stuff, I know it's a little easier for some of us than others. And let me try to help some of you out a little bit, right? And we know that a good tree produces a good fruit, right? It's a good tree because it has good fruit. And so when I see this article, I immediately start thinking, okay, who is this person that's writing this article? Because I can see the spin right away, right? And I can see how it's taking a subject and kind of putting it in a blender, and it's blending the rotten part of the apple together with a good apple and trying to make it all a good apple cobbler. And so let me take out some of the brown spots for you, help you out a little bit. So the first thing I want to know is, who's the guy mixing it? Because what kind of a person would mix rotten apple with good apple? That's the first thing I go to. And so I do that, and I go and look at the writer of the article, and what do you know? It's a guy from the banking industry. Now, a guy from the banking industry, this is like saying that you're going to read an article about a stock that you're going to invest in, written from one of the principals in the company telling you to buy the stock. Now, maybe some of you guys do that without doing your own research. I mean, would you take everything this person said and that said, oh, this is a great company, why, we're doing great things, this is a great stock, buy the stock? Would you just go ahead and do it? Or would you do your own research? Because you got this person, and I'm bringing it up because I'm seeing this article from the same person, the same industry, the same banking industry, writing the same article, and maybe it's just the publishers republishing the same article over and over every month or every 2 months. And that's the definition of propaganda. And trying to appear as an authority on all things crypto, mixing in those brown spots of the apple together with the good apple, trying to call it all crypto, as if to say that why all things crypto are bad unless it comes from the government. That's the meat and potatoes of it, the government crypto. And it uses the same word, it's as if it's all the same. Just no reference whatsoever to the idea of decentralized. By the way, this word decentralized, there cannot be a word decentralized without the origin. In other words, can you have a good apple without having a bad apple? If all apples were good, would we even say that the apples are good if there was no reference to bad apples? What I'm saying here is, we're coming from a world that is centralized with centralization, which, by the way, when America was first born, it was decentralized. The colonies decentralized away from King George, and people were free. When you look at Little House on the Prairie, the guy jumps into his wagon and just goes down the road, and that's it. That's all there's to it. Imagine that. Why criminals could get into a horse and buggy, and they could go around and just do all this mayhem without oversight and licensing and regulation. We want clarity. We want clarity. And so we keep hearing in the news, we need clarity. We need clarity. And it seems that all that has to happen now is for authorities to go running around beating up on certain people just so other people can run around saying, hey, we need clarity. We got to stop these assaults. We've got to know what we're allowed to do and what we're not allowed to do. And so I said that part of this Whopper was a principle I remind my viewers that the a system based on liberty is based on the idea that it's better that 10 guilty men go free than even just one innocent person is unjustly imprisoned. That's the kind of environment that produces liberty. In complete contradiction to that is a system that attempts to squash all wrongdoing. And it has the appearance of wanting to do good, but the Roman Empire, historically, it's been done before. The Roman Empire has squashed tax evasion and criminality, and communism typically does that. But so do they also squash all of liberty. And so that's what we're seeing. It's so thick, the propaganda. Oh, Bitcoin is being used by criminals like cash wasn't. And who invented cash? Wasn't it, 1,000 years ago? I can just see it now, back in the day when they first had to talk people into using paper instead of gold and silver coins. Well, I wonder what the propaganda was back then. I don't know, but I could sit here and try to decipher what it was later. And so we see these articles coming up over and over and over, the same ones, trying to confound the idea that somehow liberty isn't needed. We don't need liberty. There's too many criminals, there's too much criminality. And who's telling us that? The very same people, the very same directors of the corporation that are pumping their stock. And here in Mexico, I saw somebody else in a group called the Water Poisoned. I'm usually the one that uses that word, poisoned, because when something is causing you a slow death, it is poison. And I see people saying, oh yes, come to Mexico, everything is wonderful here. And it is, look at it, it's beautiful. It's amazing because we just saw a sign here that said, new advisory. New advisory, don't swim in the water because it's unsanitary. Now that word's unsanitary, isn't that lovely? How does an ocean make itself unsanitary? How does an ocean make itself unsanitary? Well, the answer is that it doesn't. People make nature unsanitary. Nature in itself is a cleansing mechanism. The salt water evaporates and creates clouds. The wind comes in, blows the clouds into a cooler area, and the water is distilled. The salt is removed, the impurities are removed, and you get clean water that goes into the rivers. Now you've got clean water that you can use and bathe in. So how does it become unsanitary? At what part of that cycle has the earth made it unsanitary? It's mismanagement of resources.
We have been complaining to about high-level officials in Mexico and the U.S. So it was just another indication that officials in Baja California have made no attempt at all to do anything to fix the sewer system.
And I remember when I was a boy, when we were in southern Italy, we would go to the beach and we would see signs, same thing as here, unsanitary. And we were just in southern Italy a couple of years ago, and the locals would say, oh, there's no swimming today. And I'm like, well, how do you know? He said, well, just look. And you could see the ocean was totally brown right there in the front. And after a couple of days, it would clear up a little bit. But if you went in the water, you could still see remnants of, that unsanitation. And so the earth doesn't give us unsanitation. The earth gives us cleansing. The earth gives us clean, healthy. And so what are good people to do? It's like I come here and I can't go swimming because I'm being told it's unsanitary. And no doubt it is unsanitary. And you just dream of an earth where you could just dwell on the earth and just enjoy the earth and its goodness and its cleanliness and everything that it has to offer when it's properly taken care of. Putting this Whopper to its end is that it seems to me that it's always other people causing negatives in our lives, stemming from whether they're coming from a good tree or a bad tree. A good tree gives us good fruit, and a bad tree gives us bad fruit. And you can't go fishing and catch a fish and eat it. That would be so much fun, just to go catch a fish and then roast it and eat it, but you can't do that. Now nature wants to give us that opportunity, but and along those lines, on to the next Whopper. I saw a headline this morning that said, listen to this, Central Bank, we're already starting on the wrong foot. Central Bank, I say that because you start handing me like a rotten fruit, but you start saying yummy fruit. Like I hand you a brown apple and start saying yummy fruit. Where's the yummy fruit? So it's like Central Bank, listen to this, Central Bank digital assets. Now, let me ask you a question. When you hold up a paper dollar, do you think that that's an asset? Just read right on the dollar what it says, note. A note is not an asset, it's a liability. Like if I owe you something and I write you a note, right? So I write you a note and I say, I promise to pay you for your car. You gave up the asset. You gave me the asset and I gave you a note. You have nothing. You have a piece of paper. Same thing. I give you a paper dollar. I'm giving you a liability. So all of a sudden, because it's digital, it becomes an asset. How does that happen? So this says Central Bank digital assets. So you see what I'm talking about here? Somebody handing you a brown apple saying, yummy fruit. Okay, we're frowning already. And then it gets worse. Can legitimize risk in the crypto space, says the fellow that just loves to write these articles from the banking industry, says that fellow. That's the fellow that the first thing I did was check into who he was. That's the kind of, this is what I'm talking about here. This is foul. It's foul. It's like somebody starts walking towards you with a bowl of rotten apples. It's like, don't come my way. I don't want that. I mean, would you sit there and go, oh yeah, check it out? No, it's obviously rotten. Every single apple's rotten. I just thought I'd give you a glimpse of that. So all of a sudden, we're confounding what an asset is and what a true asset is and what a liability is. And this is the kind of thing that we have coming from these people. And so how do we make quote unquote America great again? It's like we want to make the garden great again, and you got all these rotten trees and rotten fruits, bad trees with rotten fruits. If the garden is America, and you got all these bad trees with rotten fruits, how do you make what? Just by talking about it? By making your trees better? Well, what about the bad trees? These people are allowed to sit here and listen, we need to stop reading these things. And that's why I talk about these on my Whoppers, so that people can understand that a note is not an asset, and you can make that note digital. It doesn't all of a sudden transform into an asset. Poof, you just created something out of nothing. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for coming to the channel and have a wonderful day.